to the Cross Canada Spotlight. I'm Mike Arsenault. Every week we take a look at a handful of the most interesting and entertaining stories produced across the Global News Network. First up is a young woman looking to make aviation history, and she made a pit stop in Quebec earlier this week.
A small plane lands at St. Hubert Airport just south of Montreal. It's a common occurrence here, but what this pilot is doing is unprecedented. The water cannon salute shows you she's a big deal. So does the adoring crowd waiting for her.
Thank you so much for this welcome. There's so many people here, so it's been really amazing. I was thinking every time I stop there's more and more people, so who knows what's going to happen in Asia.
Montreal is the 9th out of 52 cities on 5 continents 19-year-old Zara Rutherford plans to land in between now and November 3rd. She's trying to become the youngest woman in history to fly around the world solo. The British-Belgian pilot started her journey in Belgium 1 week ago, most recently stopping in Newfoundland.
It was a dream I've had for a long time, so I told my parents about it. And they were like, yeah, let's do this, we'll find sponsors, we'll make it work, but we're gonna help you through it.
Both her parents are pilots, so she's very comfortable in the air, although there were some anxious moments flying over icy Greenland.
I was thinking, please don't crash, please don't crash, please don't crash. Oh, please, engine, please don't stop, please don't stop, please don't stop.
Zara calms herself with YouTube and podcasts and flies on, because she has a mission even more important than breaking the record.
When I grew up, there weren't many girls in aviation or STEM, so I had science, technology, engineering and mathematics. So I'm hoping that with my flight, I can show girls, look, here's a girl flying, you're not alone.
Maya Quentin studies aerospace engineering. At her school, men outnumber women 10-1.
So our trip is very, very inspiring.
Pilot Sandrine Brassard never had female role models to help propel her, and thinks Rutherford's mission will do wonders for women and girls.
It shows the young girls that these role models that are older than them, they've done it. So it's like a proof that if we can do it, so can they.
Helping break aviation's glass ceiling, one city at a time. Dan Spector, Global News, Montreal.
I'm sure many young girls and women will be inspired by Zara's accomplishment, and the story answered a big question I had. How do you keep yourself entertained on such a long solo journey? Besides, of course, trying not to crash the plane. I would have listened to some podcasts too, otherwise that many hours of silence would start to get to me. Now to an even younger female for our next story. A precocious 7-year-old has become a published author. Check it out.
I want this to be a real book, and the title of my book is The Great Decline.
My son and I had so much fun reading your new book to bed last night, and I cannot believe you're only 7 years old, but even more so, you are the youngest published author. You wrote this when you were just...
I wrote it when I was 3 years old. Yeah, that's right. This is page 1 and page 2.
Most kids at the age of 3 don't even know their letters. Tell me about this process of learning how to even read before you could write.
I did read at the age of 1, and I think it's because my parents read to me a lot when I was younger than a year old, and I used to point out to them when they skipped a page, skipped a line.
Wow, that's unbelievable. If writing your own book at the age of 3 isn't enough, you drew all these pictures, you illustrated this book yourself.
You could probably call me a collage artist.
You know what I call you? A mixed medium artist, because you have the medium of pencil crayons, you have painting, you have fabric that you upcycled from the floor of a tailor shop. Do you have any advice for those of us who might have some good ideas, but kind of afraid to start writing?
Well, you guys shouldn't be afraid, because who knows where you'll go? Where will your pen take you? Or your pencil? On that notebook. So you should just start doing it, and then you'll find out what's going to happen.
I was scaring everyone away with my roar, but all I wanted to do was make friends.
You seem to be a really great role model for your brother. Do you want to talk about some things outside of the office that you enjoy doing? Because in some ways, many ways, you still are a regular kid going into grade 2?
Grade 2. Yeah, grade 2. Well, actually, I enjoy going to the playground and doing the monkey bars, and I like going to the water park. I usually get my inspiration from my nature walks,
Do you have any idea how many books you've read?
Actually, in a year, more than 2,000.
You've read more than 2,000 books? Okay, it's time for me to start cracking these bindings then. This is just the first of about 10 books you've written so far. And you're now embarking on not just board books, but chapter books?
Oh yeah, I was actually currently writing a chapter book. Yes, and this story is about 4 kingdoms, and with kingdoms and kings and queens, we get conflict. I'm gonna finish it, and then I'm gonna see whether I can make it into a film. Did you know it was a 3-book series? So you'll have 3 movies to watch.
I love that you have such huge goals. Thank you so much for inspiring young readers to embrace the magic of books.
Just how impressive is little Chryseis? She actually makes me feel a little bit inferior. I'm not confident I could provide her with a conversation that's intellectually stimulating enough. I should probably up my own reading quota as well. Internet articles probably don't count, so I have a little bit of work to do. Our next story is about providing laughter from an unlikely place. Some of the heroic frontline healthcare workers who have worked tirelessly throughout the pandemic are now doling out some jokes.
They call frontline workers heroes. I would like to know who the hero is that stole my sandwich from the staff fridge.
The people behind Laughter from the Front Lines say healthcare professionals tend to have a similar sense of humor.
I think it's the best kind of humor. It's the morbid kind. You know, it's the kind that goes like 3 steps too far and you can't say anything because it's their job and, you know, they keep us alive.
Ruined dinner parties kind of humor.
Siobhan Theobald, a registered nurse at the Stollery Children's Hospital, is performing in the second upcoming virtual event, a comedy show by people who need a good giggle.
Being able to go on stage and just take off the nurse hat and embrace an entirely different side of myself as a performer is just a really great kind of escape, and it brings some levity to the heaviness.
Yeah, what's up, Grindstone? Let's hear it!
The 28-year-old started doing stand-up in 2019. She says the pandemic is nothing to laugh about, but it does create an opportunity for relatable content. We've all been through a lot together, including those annoying grocery store arrows and wearing masks.
I can't believe I'm using the bottom half of my face right now. I'm gonna have to start learning how to not make my behind the back faces in front of people anymore. And maybe start breathing through my nose again.
The creator of the show hopes these healthcare comedians can cheer up their colleagues, similar to sending performers to entertain the troops.
Instead of, you know, sending just regular comedians, why don't we send soldiers who are also comedians, right? Who knows the war better?
As for performing for a virtual audience,
people not laughing has never stopped me before, so I'm just gonna keep just plowing forward.
Sue Lingo, Global News.
I actually did a stand-up comedy set at Yuck Yucks in Toronto for my 30th birthday. It was a bucket list item for me, and I'm glad I did it, but I can't imagine doing it over Zoom. It's unlikely people will be laughing out loud virtually, so the silence after a joke would just be deafening. I don't think I could handle it. Now, I've been doing a lot of yoga and Pilates during the pandemic, and a group in Saskatchewan is certifying Indigenous yoga instructors to help people heal their trauma.
Rise up to the sky, and as you exhale, settle in.
Students from First Nations across Saskatchewan have spent the last month training. Many say yoga has helped them heal. Raylene Kennedy's sister died 8 years ago. Since then, she's been trying things like CrossFit and recently yoga.
Yeah, I've been sober for 7, and I just find new tools to add into my healing journey along the way.
Students say many yoga philosophies and Indigenous values line up.
Kindness in my culture, being kind to yourself, respecting the relationships, practicing reciprocity with the natural world.
Instructors say practicing yoga can unlock some untapped emotion for Indigenous students.
People on their yoga mat will have sometimes deeper insights, or they'll begin to acknowledge and feel feelings. They'll begin to acknowledge and see and experience things.
For some students, it's a mix of mental and physical work that speaks to them.
But this is a different way that combines, you know, mind, body, and soul, and that's for me was what really had me attached to the practice. And
Joseph Netoau is a knowledge keeper with the group. He says it's important to show Indigenous people different paths that could help them heal.
Well, a lot of our people have suffered, experiencing intergenerational trauma or just direct trauma, like myself was a survivor. And it takes a lot to clear that, to heal from that. And yoga helps, as well as ceremony.
Students from the class say they're excited to bring lessons back to friends, families, and their communities. Gabriella Pansy-Beltrandi, Global News.
There is a litany of research on the physical and mental benefits of yoga, and hopefully this program will continue to help people improve their lives and get to a happier place internally. We end this week in BC, where the legendary Sikh riders have returned from a cross-country motorcycle trip to raise money for the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Just an easy cruise back home in Surrey on this day for the legendary Sikh riders. They are fresh off an epic journey that took them coast to coast across Canada, raising money for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. 22 days on the road and close to $35,000 in donations, exceeding all expectations.
As we went, the whole thing kind of snowballed. The buildup was that one community did a little bit, the next one topped them, and the third one topped them even more.
Most provinces recognize the religious exemption for Sikh riders to not wear helmets.
We appreciate New Brunswick government giving us the right to wear a turban and ride our bikes in their province.
But they were forced to trailer their bikes in Quebec and Saskatchewan. The only other setback was when one member made a wrong turn in Ontario and was gone for 5 hours.
For somehow it took him to the U.S. So we're going one way and he's going the other way.
I did 1,200 kilometers in a day, and it was almost 15 and a half hours on the saddle, just because of my mistake.
Some incredible connections were made along the way. They held the sword of the first warrior king of the Sikh Empire, owned by a billionaire businessman in Calgary. There was a police escort for part of their ride in the Maritimes.
Why don't you swap them with your bike? That would be good.
They joined another charity ride outside of Toronto and were honored by local politicians at a pool party in Orangeville.
There you go.
And in BC, Jackie Andrew of the Lil'wat First Nation made them vests to wear in memory of the 215 children whose remains were found at a former Kamloops residential school.
So I said, look, can you do something where we can take the memories of the kids that had never had a chance to live a life, to never experience anything? And she said, yeah, no problem. She goes, generally they don't do it, but for you, she will. So to us, it was an honor.
It's their first charity ride, but it certainly won't be their last. The legendary Sikh riders are already making plans for something much bigger next summer.
Anybody says, okay, we are riding for this time, I'll ride with them. I'm still around. Yeah. I'll be doing it. I'll always be doing that.
Jay Durant, Global News.
It's pretty cool all of the different connections the riders were able to make across the country during their journey. And 15 and a half consecutive hours in the saddle, I get sore just sitting in a car for a couple of hours at a time. I wouldn't be able to walk for days if I tried something like that. That's it for the Cross Canada Spotlight this week. Be sure to watch Global News Weekend Saturday and Sunday mornings at 7 a.m. on the Global TV app.